What is going on, Degenerates? It's us, the Draft Degenerates, back with more UDL coach interviews. I am Toby, half of the Degenerates, and I am joined by my beautiful, darling co-host, Raspberry.
That's me, baby. I'm here. What's good?
And we are joined today for another Arcanine Division coach interview. This is CosmicKyle. How you doing, Kyle?
Good. Yeah.
All right, we got Kyle on here to give us all the details about his preseason, his draft process, insight into his team, things like that all of you adoring fans out there in the UDL are looking for. So, to start off, Kyle, could you tell us a little bit about your draft process? Like, did you have an original plan that you wanted to go for with your team, and did any snipes or anything like that affect it? Or did your draft go smoothly?
Honestly, I went into this draft with basically no plan. I knew I wanted to use Grimmsnarl, and I knew I wanted to use Darmanitan Galar, and that's about it.
And you
And
got him.
I just kind of built around those two, and yeah, that's how it worked out.
Fair enough. Honestly, that's probably the better way to do it in auction, is to
Yeah.
not have a plan necessarily going
Yeah.
in, because from what I've seen, most people who had like a rigid plan got shut down pretty
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Although I will say some people were better off for it.
Yeah, true. Very true.
You, Wakeman.
We love Wakeman. He's our sponsor.
Shout out to Wakeman.
Okay, yeah. So your draft process was pretty just we'll see what happens, and the goal was Grimmsnarl, Darmanitan, and you obviously got those. How do you feel about that with the rest of the team?
I like it. Darmanitan's one that I've always wanted to use in draft leagues. I've just never gotten the opportunity to, and I figured this is the last league I'm probably going to do before Gen 9 hits, so I better get it used before that happens.
Might as well, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. So give us a little bit of info about this team here, a little bit of insight. For, like, the uninitiated, what about this team to you looks good? What do you think's going to work well? Obviously, don't spoil all your super secret techs and all your strategies and stuff, but, like, looking at this team, how does it mesh well? What does it do? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, starting off with Rillaboom. Rillaboom's like my comfort Gen 8 mon. It's like the mon I go to draft almost every season.
Mm-hmm.
So I look for that if I can. Because I can do so much with Rillaboom. Like, the opportunities I have with Rillaboom is tremendous. It just syncs so well with like 90% of my team. Like, I can do stuff with Drifloon. I can do stuff with bulky Milotic sets with grassy terrain. I can do stuff with Metagross or Grimmsnarl. Even things with like Palossand and Aselgor, I think it could match up well with. So,
yeah,
like grabbing Rillaboom in the later rounds was crucial to me once I saw that it had escaped the first couple rounds, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to fight for Grimmsnarl or for Rillaboom a little bit, but I ended up getting it for I think 22 points, so not even that expensive.
Oh yeah,
for Rillaboom, so
cheaper than Glaceon.
Yeah,
sure.
I know. I saw that and I'm just like, holy cow. So that was part of my strategy, was to let other people spend their points and to use their slots up so I could get things for cheaper and have less people fight me for stuff that I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't make a draft pick until like day 3, I believe. It was like round 6 or something like that when I finally got my first team member.
Yeah, you were pretty quiet for a while.
Yeah, I just sat back and I would nominate mons that I knew other people wanted, because I had messaged like several of the coaches throughout the league, and I'm like, okay, I'm planning on these mons, and they're like, okay, I'm planning on, like, I knew pretty much Rolo's strategy of Gold Trace and then Indeedee female and Slurpuff, and I'm just like, okay, I'll let him have those, and I'm gonna take mine, and I'm like, okay, cool. And yeah, it worked out for me because I got pretty much everything I ended up wanting, and I think I have a solid team.
I think it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. So we know from some of the more vocal coaches, specifically Rolo, that sometimes if you want to get a certain mon, you gotta do whatever it takes to get your hands on it. So you said you messaged a bunch of coaches to see what they wanted. Were there any like shady deals that went down in order for you to get the team that you have, or was it pretty on the straight and narrow, so to speak?
There was a couple that I had to deal with. Wakeman, for example, I knew going in he wanted Metagross, and so like I started planning on how to get Metagross. And I would just nominate his tier ones, and so he wouldn't have the slots for Metagross, and so he pivoted off of Metagross rather quickly and ended up with Primarina as one of his other tier ones. And I'm like, I won't touch Primarina, you don't touch Metagross, we're good.
Yep.
And then I wanted a couple other mons that I wasn't able to get because of my slots, but that's okay. I think I've ended up well. For example, Turtonator was one I was looking at in the or in the tier 4s, but he went rather early and went for more points than I was willing to spend on it, so I fell back to Pallas and a Salagor combo, which is a strong combo, but yeah. It made me fall back to Moltres, which has the 4 times to rock, which I'm not real excited about, but I've got mons that can cover rock weakness quite well, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely fine.
Speaking of Excelgor Palisand, it's definitely something that I've seen in ladder, but I don't think I've ever seen it used in draft before. Is that something that you've taken in drafts that I haven't been a part of, or is that something that you knew existed, but it's your first time using it?
Yeah, I've known it's existed. I've seen it in other drafts that I've been a part of. I've never taken it particularly, but I've used it in like random VGC battles on Pokemon Showdown, and I know how strong it can be, so I'm just hoping I can translate it to a draft format.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited to see it pop, dude. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Okay. So, moving on, who would you say in this division, in Arcanine division, would, looking at all of the teams, because obviously you've paid a little bit of attention to that, the whole process, who do you think are you most excited to fight this season, and who are you dreading the most to fight this season?
So, my most excited fight team would probably be Rolo, just because every time I face Rolo, I mean, it seems like I get destroyed, but they're always fun battles.
Yeah.
He just is such a smart battler that he knows how to prep really well for, and he's hard to prep against because you never really know what he's going to do. And the fact that some of his Pokemon that he wanted, I wanted on my team, like, he ended up with Araquanid. I fought for Araquanid to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, I'll just fall back to my Lodic, because they do essentially the same thing. I mean, one's a special attacker, one's a physical attacker. That's, like, the main difference, but they're both really bulky water types, and that's, like, my go-to Mon types for water types, so...
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the team I'm most scared of, I really like the Bisharps. I think they're a really strong team. They've got a lot of top tier, like, Togekiss and Heatran and Porygon 2 are, like, 3, and Blastoise especially, being a tier 2 in this league. I think Blastoise could really pop off, because there's just so much you can do with Blastoise.
Oh, yeah.
Togekiss.
Yeah, Blastoise, Togekiss paired next to each other, you can just Shell Smash Blastoise and just redirect everything onto Togekiss. It's just like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, Bisharps is, that's Yeet, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, Yeet's gonna be a tough customer this season, I'm pretty sure. Even though this isn't about me, but I'm gonna absolutely destroy that man for saying Spectreer's ass and that Dragonite's ass.
I'm really scared of your team too, as well, because like Spectreer was one that I was looking at. Until I got Rillaboom, Spectreer was like my last tier 1 that I was planning on. Then I ended up getting Rillaboom, and I'm like, okay, I have to pivot off of Spectreer because Rillaboom and Metagross paired next to each other just fits really well into my playstyle.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and plus Mamoswine is like a top 3 favorite Pokemon of mine, so I'm glad you took Mamoswine.
Well, I
We
kind of
try
felt
not-
obligated.
Yeah,
we try not to talk about Mamoswine.
I felt a little obligated based off of past events, but
gotcha.
I will say I've seen one of Toby's pastes this season.
Great.
It's gonna be quite the season for him, I think.
well, this we're not talking
We're
about.
not talking.
But
I'm just
Great.
saying you're right.
And then Entei was another one that I was looking at as a fire type option, and Tangrowth was my backup for Rillaboom if I didn't end up with Rillaboom after deciding on Rillaboom. So
Yeah.
you've got a lot of mons that I was looking at, and so I think that'll be a fun fight if we fight, whenever we fight, I'm sure.
I would be down to fight. I look at this team and I'm like, this would be really fun to play with against. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have any vendetta against you or anything like with Yeet. Like Yeet, I'm going to cream him. But
We face off week 3, it looks like.
Ooh,
Dang.
then
Yeah.
look forward to week 3 then.
Yeah.
So, as a backup pick, do you think Milotic is better or worse for your team than Araquanid?
I actually think it fits better in the end result because looking at my team is very physically attacking heavy. And so I'm expecting a lot of intimidates, so having competitive on Milotic is going to help out and just being able to deal with it that way. Because you look at my top 4 Mons, arguably, they're all physically attackers. You've got Rillaboom, Darmanitan, Metagross, and Grimmsnarl. They're all physical attackers.
Right.
And so I'm really worried about Will-O-Wisp, and I'm really worried about Intimidate, but I've got a couple strategies for some of those, so...
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I super agree with that, yeah.
No, I agree.
So yeah, I do think Milotic was the better fit.
I definitely agree. I think it looks better for you than Araquanid.
Yeah.
I also think not having another, like, I don't know the overall spread, but I do know that, like Darmanitan and Moltres and stuff, I think not having another rock weakness is pretty nice.
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
Absolutely. Okay. And then you also, I believe, based off of our official power rankings brought to you by our lovely sponsor, Samuel Wakeman, owner of the GLDL, conqueror of that ass, he did ask me to use his full title for the sponsorship. He ranked you, I believe, at number 5 in the power rankings for the Arcanine division. So how do you feel about being placed number 5 as a top 5 team in the division? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think it's inaccurate? Should you be higher, lower? And if you want to get any higher, what do you think you're going to do throughout the season to get higher?
No, I think 5 is fairly fair. Looking at some of these teams, I definitely think I'm not the best team drafted, but I think part of that comes in with not having a solid plan and just kind of winging it as time goes on. I think a lot of the better teams had that solid plan and set and fought for a lot of their mons. But yeah, I think I did a fairly good job drafting, so I think 5 is pretty fair for me, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just I tend to be on the top half of power rankings often, and I end up at the bottom half of the standings. So it's whether or not I can execute with this team. But this is a team that I feel fairly comfortable with. So
yeah.
I feel like I should be able to execute with decently. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
So yeah, with all that said, it does flow pretty nicely into the next question. Considering like it seems to be a pretty strong team, definitely top half. And based on what you said, it sounds like it fits your play style pretty well. Do you think playoffs is in the cards for you this season? Like, are you making it? How strong of a contender are you? All that business.
I definitely think I can compete for a playoff spot. Yeah, I think that's definitely within the cards of being able, of possibility. As for like a top seed in the playoffs, I don't know, but maybe towards like the 4, 5, 6 seed
Sure.
potentially. So yeah,
He's making it.
have full confidence that you can make it, especially with this team. I don't know much about your past league history or anything like that. Obviously, you said you're kind of in the bottom half of the standings a lot, but I'm going to say, as somebody who is also in the bottom half of the standings a lot and is also in the bottom half of the power rankings a lot, I can tell you I'm fairly confident I've got a good shot this time, so I think you've got a good shot.
So yeah, drafting is my strong suit. Battling and like calcing and prepping is like where it gets a bit shaky for me.
Yeah,
So
never hurts to get a second set of eyes on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, then you, as an auction coach this season, we're asking this for everybody, even the non-max coaches, because this just seems like such a hot topic lately.
Mm-hmm.
You have obviously been around and seen all of the craziness with the auction draft. Obviously, the 5-point goal trust, the elephant in the room.
Oh yeah.
And the 85 points going to Dragapult, and I think how much did Grimmsnarl go for?
I think it was 85. 85 or 86.
Yeah, some huge point buys, and then some also like steals with some 1-point buys.
Definitely.
What is your opinion on the auction draft as a whole? Like, looking at it as a draft style?
I think they're so much fun. It's chaos is what it is. I think that's a very fair way to describe auction drafts, and the fact that Goltrace went for 5 points as the number 1 overall pick, I think everybody had their first round pick set, so that's why it went for so cheap. I think had it have been nominated in a later round, we would have seen a fight for it. But because I think everybody had their first round mon set and what they wanted to draft, I think that's why it went for so cheap. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed this. Just the making of deals with coaches and stuff like that is something you can't do in a normal snake draft.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you can try, but you can't really go after every single or message every coach in the league and make these backhanded deals, because something's gonna turn and you're not gonna get your team that you wanted.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen. So.
And there's no way to, even if those deals go wrong, like with auction draft with the point system, you have a way to leverage those picks anyway. You can leverage your points on somebody else or something like that. Like, I know that's actually what happened with Metagross between you and Wakeman, is you had way more points than Wakeman when it came time for Metagross, and Wakeman spent 50 on Tornadus or something like that, so he was not willing to fight you on that.
Exactly.
And even in making deals, it's hard to know who you can trust, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
a lot of the times deals will be like, hey, we want 2 of the same mons. If I take one, you take the other. What's stopping the other person from taking the thing that they want and then going, sorry, dude, I'm actually taking both?
Oh, I definitely haven't done that before. Nope, never.
What?
Nope.
There was definitely not an off-season event that I did that in.
No, not at all. We wouldn't accuse you of that.
So, yeah, as somebody who has probably the most experience in this format, having done it in the off season and also now in the regular season, do you think, it's in the early stages, do you think that it will keep its reputation as like sort of a gimmick type of thing, or do you think that its attributes could lend itself to being more serious and competitive?
I definitely think there's a world in which auction drafts could be more prevalent, but I think you have to find the right group of people that want to do auction drafts. I think they take considerably more time than snake drafts do. Just because you've like got to wait for everybody to go out, or for everybody to have it. Everybody has to have a chance to look at the Pokemon that they want and to look at the Pokemon nominated, and see whether it fits their design team or not. And so I think they take more time, and I think they're a little harder to like prep for, because like that's part of the reason why I went in with no team, is because like it can go any which direction. You'd never know what mon's gonna get nominated, so it's like, to not have a plan, I think, is the best sort of plan for auction drafts.
Right.
I think we'll always still see snake draft being more prevalent than auction drafts, but I do think there's a world where auction drafts could be more prevalent. I don't know that they'll ever overtake snake drafts, but I do think there's a world where we could see more of them.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. And I guess last question here for you is, if you were approached by, say, a person who owns a top-level draft league, like the best of the best go and compete in this draft league, and he was debating maybe making auction format the format for the next season of, like, the premier draft league, what would you tell him with auction?
I'd say go for it. I think it lets the teams be the best that they can be. Because, like, we had 3 tier 1 slots to use and 3 tier 2 slots to use, so that's 6 of our 11 mons that we could use on, like, top tier Pokemon. There were some arguments for Pokemon that could be tier 1 that were tier 2, because we split it into 5 tiers. Like, Rotom, Heat, and Blastoise are 2 mons that just pop off of the top of my head that are, like, tier 1 in most leagues, and you see them as tier 2s in this league. I think you can go for a tier 1, or for an auction draft style league, for a top tier league, and be successful. Because I think the teams are going to be just one step higher than what you would get with the snake draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. All right. Then I guess the last thing we would like to know, Kyle, is where can the lovely people, your adoring fans here at UDL, find your content? Plug your socials and stuff.
I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/CosmicKyle13. I'm going to start hopefully streaming these battles this season. I hope, at least.
Hell yeah.
I need to get a capture card first, but once that happens, I plan on streaming these battles.
Cool.
But yeah, I also plan on uploading to YouTube a lot of these battles and stuff like that. So YouTube, I don't know my YouTube channel name right now. I need to change the name of it, but I will get around to changing the name of that, and I will put it in the UDL Discord when that happens.
Awesome. Yeah. We will also put it in the description below so all the lovely viewers can find you.
Cool.
But I think that is about everything we wanted to cover with you today, Kyle. I want to say thank you so much for coming on and answering some questions with us. We have really enjoyed doing these interviews so far, and I like to get inside the head of the coaches and see what they're thinking of, what they're planning for this season, how they're feeling, all that stuff. And this has been really nice to get some insight. So thank you for coming on.
Of course.
All right. And you guys at home, thank you for watching another UDL draft interview. We are the Draft Degenerates. I'm Toby, that's Rez, but you knew that. And we will catch you in the next one. For you guys, maybe a day, a few hours to a day. For us, a few minutes. So we will catch you then. Until then, Draft Degenerates signing off. Raz, outro.
We'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace out.
Done.